What's good, everyone? This is Mo, and this is enjoyour24. I hope everyone's having a great weekend despite the shitty weather and the terrible air quality we have in Vancouver right now. Despite all that, I hope you guys are killing it. I just want to say thank you for the support for the first episode that I put out with Diego and the different feedback I got from that. I definitely was not expecting that, and I truly appreciate all of you for getting back to me and for continuing to support me. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is episode 2, and on episode 2 I have Paul Eberhardt on the show, or formerly known as Ebs. Ebs is a BC legend. He's been in the coaching game for 40 plus years now, and I personally met Ebs 10 years ago at RTC, a training center out in Richmond where Ebs was the coach, and ever since then I've known Ebs and I've kept a tab on him. And a couple years after I met him, he ended up winning a provincial championship with RC Palmer, and then a couple years after that won a national championship with Langara Falcons. So he's really done it all, and I had the privilege of playing for him at Langara this past season, and all the good things you hear about Ebs is completely true, man. He's just an absolute fucking beauty. He's one of the coolest and chillest dudes you'll ever meet, and obviously he knows his stuff about basketball, but what really separates Ebs from other coaches is that he's a player's coach, and he genuinely cares about you and wants you to do better and be the best that you can be. And he, one thing that Ebs has is he has a lot of stories and experiences throughout his years coaching and being in the basketball scene, and one of the stories we get into today on the episode is his experience coaching Steve Nash at the provincial level. I didn't know that was actually a thing that he did, but it is true. Ebs did coach Steve Nash on the provincial team a long time ago, so we really get into that and how, Steve was as a basketball player, as a person, and we get into his work ethic and, why and how he became, a future Hall of Famer. So for, young hoopers and ex-hoopers and current players right now, this is a great episode to tune in, because Ebs is the one person that you want to listen to when it comes to basketball. He knows it all, and he's a BC legend. So here it is, Paul Eberhardt, Coach Ebs, episode number 2. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.
All right, so
he's giving me no fucking idea anything he's gonna ask me.
Maybe we can start.
Well, I asked you over the phone. I was like, "Is there anything?"
No, I'm just fucking.
So today we got Paul Eberhardt.
Sorry, make sure our audio is good and it's
working.
Right now?
I think it's working. Should be working.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You see the lines moving on.
Yeah, the lines are moving.
We're good.
Okay, so today we have Paul Eberhardt on the show, formerly known as Ebs. How you doing?
Always known as Ebs.
Yeah,
always.
I heard you don't like being called Paul.
No, nobody calls me that. Very few people call me that.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. And when I moved to West Van, because I taught in Richmond for like 28 years, everyone's calling me Paul out there. I hate it, so I have to correct it.
Yeah. I was told by one of your former teammates, don't call him Paul, or he'll freak out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's weird. I'm not used to hearing it. So.
Yeah. So how are you doing during COVID? Is it
not bad? Look at this COVID hair I got going.
Oh, there you go.
Like, I've been shaving my head for 20 years. It's not bad. It's not good up here.
There you go.
Maybe if I keep it going, I can do the comb over. Who knows?
There you go. Yeah. I remember.
No, it's been weird. It's been really weird. But okay. You make the best of it, right?
Right. Yeah. It's good with sports back. For sure.
Yeah, that's been nice.
Yeah.
Watching NBA back to back, or even golf or anything. It's been nice to have on TV.
What do you think about the bubble? Is it something that's like, do you like it, like the whole concept?
Well, it seems to be working for them so far.
Right.
They talked, I was watching a show today, they were talking about, can we adopt this bubble thing for the general public? But, wow, you got $1 million? The amount of security they have to have, they test them like constantly. So, but it seems to be working. So baseball is getting hammered right now. Mm-hmm. So they seem to be doing it right.
Yeah. The Marlins have like 13 or 14 guys.
They had to cancel a bunch of games, and I just I don't think. I mean, you would think baseball, it's outdoors, there's not as much contact, but the fact that they're circulating around everywhere, it's just too much of a risk, right?
Right.
So, with the exception of the few, and who was it? Lou Williams, who stopped for chicken wings.
I can't believe you did that. I mean, honestly, at that point, it's like you can do whatever you want, and people aren't really looking. You know, they're not like examining everything, and there's no supervisor. You're grown men, you know.
Yeah, but they take that stuff. I mean, because it's so much money. If they get one or two guys screwing the bubble up for them, it's like millions of dollars, right?
Right.
So,
I mean, for some, like the bubble for a bunch of players, I feel like it's been good. Like they play better without the fans, the distractions.
Well, they have a lot more discipline, right?
Mm.
They're forced to be in one place, and they're just focusing only on basketball. They're playing way more often, right? Like every other day or every day. So yeah, maybe it will help. I mean, the games have been really good so far. I'm surprised. Right. I thought the games would have been, I thought teams would have really been, kind of out of sorts. But the games have been really good so far.
Right. I mean, my Lakers have been awful.
They were terrible yesterday.
It's weird because sometimes when I watch them play, I'm just like, you guys. What are you guys doing? You guys have no offense. LeBron just holding the ball, 50 dribbles. Like, I don't understand. Like, what is, as a coach, like, when you look at that, it's like, what's going on? You got two of the top 5 players in the league. And
yeah, no, it's weird. They don't seem to have, I mean, they're obviously the number one team. They've won a bunch of games, but sometimes you wonder if that's just their sheer talent alone, and then if that might come up to haunt them in the playoffs.
Right.
Against a team that maybe runs a bit better stuff or defends a little bit, throws the double. It'll be interesting to see. Mm. I personally am really cheering for them to lose. So.
Wow.
I'm not a Lakers fan. Sorry, Mo.
Really?
I used to be back in the Magic Kareem days, but no,
right.
I'm not a Lakers fan.
Wow, that's I'm Lakers diehard all
I know
the way.
You are. I know
yeah. You are. So I got to roll with them, even when they're bad.
Well, were you just because you love Kobe? Is that what sort of got you?
Well, yeah,
to like the Lakers.
So he was the reason why I started playing basketball, and I just sort of like gravitated towards him. And yeah, he was just the Lakers guy, and I had to,
You like LeBron?
I love LeBron.
Okay, just checking.
I love him. You don't like him?
I can live without him. No, listen, he's like awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm. As you know, I can be a bit stubborn about things. I haven't quite forgiven him for the whole way he handled the move to Miami.
The decision?
It still bothers me. It shouldn't, but it still does.
That was a big thing. That was huge. That was like on the media. Like it was like a TV show.
That was crazy.
Wow. Well, okay. So who do you think is a dark horse in the league right now?
Portland.
I knew you were going to say that because you tweeted about it a couple times.
They're healthy now, and like. They're really good. Like their backcourt is right up there with any backcourt in the league, and they're big.
Mm.
Like I didn't realize how big they were. Right, they're huge across the front. So they could be a dangerous team, I think, in the playoffs. And I think Houston can be a dangerous team too. They're playing this amazing small ball right now, and they're looking pretty. They're so hard to stop. And Harden, I'm not a huge Harden fan of his game.
Mm.
But you can't, he's the best offensive player in the game right now. Like, nobody can stop him when he's on.
Better than KD?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. Do. I mean, the numbers he puts up are pretty insane.
They are, yeah. I mean,
he gets a lot of people hate on him because of kind of the way he plays, because they think he's got a selfish game. But if you really watch him, he doesn't have a selfish game. He gives the ball up when he needs to give the ball up.
Mm.
Right. So, but he's really tough to stop. Like, I don't think anybody can really stop him when he's going. I don't.
It's crazy because like whenever he gets the ball, it's like the defense completely changes, and there's two guys basically just like standing like sort of like in a pack line defense, just sort of like, you're not going to beat us. You're going to have to pass it.
Yeah.
And he's a willing passer. So.
And they got guys. I mean, that's all D'Antoni does, right?
Yeah.
You space out. And you hit the threes, especially those corner threes. And I think when Eric Gordon comes back, when he comes back healthy, that'll make a big difference for him too.
Yeah, putting shoes around James Harden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Mike D'Antoni, So for people that don't know Mike D'Antoni, he coached the Phoenix Suns when Steve Nash was the back-to-back MVP, and now he's the head coach of the Houston Rockets. And you actually have a personal relationship with him.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of started with my brother. My brother was doing some reporting for CKNW for the Dan Russell show, the old sports talk show, and so they would always send him to Phoenix or to Seattle when Phoenix was there because of Nash, right? And so through that, he kind of just got to know Tony quite a bit, and so he ended up actually doing a bit of coaching with Tony when he was with the Knicks, and even here in Houston. He actually works out some players from Houston. And so through that connection, I got to know D'Antoni a little bit, talk to him, hang out with him a bit in Vegas during the summer league and stuff like that. And he's a real down-to-earth guy. But he's a brilliant coach. He doesn't always get the credit because he doesn't play any defense. But some of the things, think about it. The stuff he did with Phoenix, the 7 seconds or less that he did with Nash, absolutely changed the NBA game. It did. It changed. That's basically a predecessor for what Golden State sort of figured out, right? And and it certainly changed Nash's life because he was born to play in that, and that's when he won his 2 MVPs. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Do you think if Nash didn't have D'Antoni as a coach, he wouldn't be as successful just because of the system?
Yeah, maybe, but look at what he did in Dallas too, right? Dallas got up and down. If you have Steve as your point guard, all you have to do is watch him play for 5 minutes, and you're going to say, I think we better push the ball, right? It was like that when I got the chance to coach him on the provincial team. This is way back in like 91. And we had already started, and we were down in Vegas, and he came and joined us because he just finished with the national team, the junior national team. And within one day, it was obvious that he was the team leader. All the guys just knew right away. And it was like, get your hands up, move to an open space, and he'll find you. So, he would have had success no matter what. Would he have won those back-to-back MVPs? Probably not, because, a lot of times it depends on the numbers. But, yeah, no, if he's playing for you and you don't take advantage of that, then you're not a very good coach.
Right, yeah. I forgot you actually coached them.
Yeah, I was young back then. But Goulet was the head coach, and I was his assistant, and we got to work with Steve, and we won the gold medal in overtime against Alberta in the nationals, and Steve hit the winning shot.
Wow!
Yes, it was a brilliant decision in the timeout. Goulet looks at me, I look at him, and we say, give Nash the ball, everybody else get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
You stand in that corner, you get over there, and that's what we did, and you hit the winner.
Decision, yeah. I don't know. Do you have a lot of your offensive philosophies through Mike D'Antoni?
Actually, a bigger influence for me is actually a guy named Paul Westhead. Paul Westhead was the head coach of the Lakers when they won their first title with Magic, and then he got fired partway through the next year. And he's been around a long time. He's coached the WNBA championship teams, and he's been an assistant around. But he went to Loyola Marymount after that. With Bo Kimball and that famous story. I don't know. There's a great 30 for 30 about it, and that's where he ran what he called the system. You know what the system is because it's what I run. So I watched what he was doing. This was back in the 90s, and I really liked it. So I started sort of experimenting with it, and when I got all his videos, I watched him. I got to meet him. He's got a video about the system. I actually have that with his signature on one of my valuable collectibles. So yeah, he was a huge influence on me on sort of how to run the floor in a organized way, but still get up and down and score a bunch of points. So yeah, and then when D'Antoni was in Phoenix and then in New York, I was always lucky enough to get his playbook, to get his videos, and so a lot of the stuff that I added to the system, some of the dribble-outs and different stuff came from that. So,
and flex is part of that system.
Well, it can be. Flex is something I learned from Goulet, right? And so when I was doing the system, I just said, wait a minute. When we run the floor, everyone's in the perfect spots. So why don't we try running some flex with it too? Right. So yeah. So I mean, if you're a good coach, in my opinion, you got to steal from everybody.
Right.
You take. Oh, I like that, and you just try to make it your own. Right. So it's a constant formula to figure that out.
What's amazing to me is like you've been running flex for as long as a long time.
I mean, I've run other stuff for different teams and done different things depending on my personnel, especially in high school. In high school, you have to be a bit more adaptable because you don't control the players you have.
Right.
But for the most part, I've been running a form of it for, 25, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you were about to say?
Well, it's just cool to me, like during this Pac West, like during your coaching career in the Pac West, all the coaches know that you run flex. And I remember when I was at Cap, when we used to prepare for Langara, we would actually run flex in our practice, and we were just like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. This is the read, and then we still couldn't really stop it. It's just always so effective. And like, what is it about flex that like never basically gets old, and there's basically no defense for it at times?
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? Because you can run anything and be effective, right? You really can. There's so many ways to do it. But when you're running a more of a motion or continuity type flex offense, if you just run it, you're going to be dead. You have to run it with teaching your players how to make the proper reads as it happens, right? If you just run like flex cut down screen, you're hooped. But if you teach your players how to, okay, if he does this, you've got to make this read or that read. Then even if you know it's coming, if your players are smart and are able to read, then you can't really stop it, right? So I get a kick out of that, right? Of the fact that he's just going to run flex. We'll be able to stop. Okay, go ahead, stop it. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But if players understand how to make reads adjusting to what the defense does, then it's a tough thing to stop. Yeah.
So I would guess like when you're doing your recruiting, you're really looking for a guy that has really like a high basketball IQ and understands plays and understands reads.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, that's what every coach wants, but there's only a few of those guys available, right? But I think if you can bring a player in, maybe who's doesn't have a lot of experience, but they're very athletic, and you can just teach them a few things, and they understand their role. This is the most important thing, right? Many 100 years ago, when I used to go play, after high school, I'd always play at the Caresdale Community Center, right? Because I actually worked there, and so I would sometimes run the open runs for the men that would come in and play. So because I ran it, I was able to pick the teams, and I wouldn't always pick the best guy there for my team because he was selfish or didn't understand. I'd pick the guys who knew what to do. And it's amazing, if you play within yourself, it's amazing how good you can become. And so not everybody can do everything, but maybe this guy's a good screener, or this guy's a good rebounder. You need to have those guys who know what they're capable of, and they don't try to do too much stuff they're not good at. Those are the kinds of players I like to get. But part of the fun of being a coach is getting 7, 8 guys with all these different backgrounds and different skills and abilities and going, okay, how can I put them together to make them a cohesive team? And sometimes you have tremendous success and sometimes you don't.
Well, I think for like this past season for our team, we had a lot of pieces, but we were just all so new to each other. It was a completely new team. I mean,
it was, and it was a very new team. And we certainly showed moments of being able to play with anybody. But we had trouble, for whatever reason, sustaining it for a long period of time. And we also had trouble down the stretch. We lost a lot of close games. Those are the kind of losses that drive me crazy. Because as a coach, I take that on, right? You don't see that as a player, right? You maybe see me yelling at you or yelling at somebody else. But man, I'm yelling at myself inside a lot, right? Because those ones just haunt you. You think, okay, if I just made this sub, or if I just did this a little bit differently, we win that game, right? And we had a lot of close losses this year. I mean, in our playoffs, we lose to Camosun, who we played 4 times.
Yeah.
We lost to them 4 times.
Yeah.
And we lost by 2, by 2, by 3, and by 4.
Yep.
Right?
I think it was,
So those kinds of things, you just say to yourself as a coach, what am I doing wrong in those instances that could have turned that around? So it's a bit frustrating, but that's part of how it works. Sometimes you win those and sometimes you don't.
I think the biggest thing for us was we we're part of a new system, and it was just something we had to get used to. And we, when we ran flex, it worked perfectly. Like, we never actually ran it all the way through.
No.
We only did like the one,
No. We
you
never
know,
did. You guys
the
drove me
one,
fucking crazy.
yeah,
We never did.
one down screen, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think,
And I will say too, running more of a structured offense like that, which is not that popular anymore, right? Everyone's running 5 out and dribble handoff, and it's not that popular. You have to really sell it. Younger players don't. But in 24-second shot clock, it is a little tougher to run a structured offense. That's why you've got to run it crisply and stuff like that. So, I mean, I haven't given up on it. I still think you can win a lot that way, but you also have to do a few things differently. And we ended up becoming quite a pick and roll team, which I always hated. But I'm such a giving, generous human being. I just decided, okay, you guys want to run that, and I mean, we had a point guard that was good at it.
Yeah.
So
Luka Lizdek, shout out Luka.
Yeah. So we made a lot of changes, but we just couldn't quite get over the hump, unfortunately.
Right.
It would have been nice to have this group together as a group again, because I think there's such huge growth after playing together for a year and playing the system and learning it. It takes a while, right? And so it would be nice to have more of the group back, but that's just not the way it worked out.
Right. And I think that's one of the things, that being in that system for a couple of years is, I think, the biggest thing, because you'll just know the system a little bit better. It will be more fluid. And
when I first went to Langara, we had I knew it was going to be a really talented group my first year. And they bought into it really quickly. But in the end, we lost in the semifinals. It was a really tight game, but we lost in the semifinals. We were the number 1 team. But they all came back. And you could just see even though we had close games the next year too, not many, and you could just see the difference and in our confidence. And we won the nationals that year. So having had that group for a year and having them learn it, I think I still think we should have won back to back. But it made a big difference in terms of how they played the second year. So
right, that was a stacked team. You guys had a lot of stacked players. Elliot, Mason, Jit.
Well, Brody Gregg is, like I tell people, like after Nash, he's the best player I've ever coached.
Wow.
I coached Kelly Olynyk and coached a lot of good players, but he was an amazing player. A quick story about him. Meta World Peace was coming up. He came up here in the summers quite a bit, and my brother was working him out, and I was working him out. So we worked him out on my old high school at Palma. And then, by the way, this was like I was just figuring out social media at this time. I was a bit late to the party, and I had a Twitter account, right? And I had whatever followers. And so, about halfway through the workout, I just took a picture. I said, "Oh yeah, we're working on Meta World Peace at Palma right now." Of course, what am I thinking, right? Like, what am I doing? Well, within half an hour, there's 300 people there. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I had to get them all up in the bleachers, and they all want his autograph. He was really good. Like, he took a picture with everybody.
Right, yeah.
Then we had to escort him out the back. I was like, oh, okay, I won't make that mistake again. Anyway, so he said to me, can you get some guys together so we can have a run? I said, sure. So I got a bunch of my Langara guys, some really good players, too, came out, like guys that former players who are playing pro, and so it was a good run. So after the first game, he comes over and he sits beside me and he goes, "Coach," he says, "who's that guy?" And I said, "Oh, that's Brody. He plays my point guard at Langara College." He goes, "Could you promise me something?" He says, "Could you put me on this team?" And I said, wow. Right? So he recognized within like that one game, like, I need to be on this guy's team because he's so good at getting the ball to people and making people better.
Right.
And when I took the job at Langara and I interviewed all the guys to see if they were coming back, the one question they all said to me is, "Brody coming back?" Like, he really, I mean, nobody, unless you've seen him or played with him, the CCAA doesn't get huge amounts of attention, right? But he's phenomenal. The coach for Mohawk, so after we won it, we made the Nationals again the next year, and it was hosted by Mohawk back in Hamilton. And the coach came up and he said, "Hey, coach," he says, when we saw that Brody wasn't coming back, because he went and played with this Ballaholics semi-pro team.
Yeah,
right?
semi-pro.
When we saw that, when we read that, he said, "My team, we had a party because now we knew we could win."
Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty big compliment.
He was that good, hey?
The guy averaged, we were 25-1 that year in playoffs and league games. And in those 26 games, he had 17 or 18 triple doubles. He averaged a triple double at the national finals.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
You'd have loved him, because you could have just stood there, got your feet set, boom, whap threes all day long.
Wow.
Yeah. No, he's that good. Yeah, he's that good.
I never actually saw him play. I just saw him play recently in men's league about a couple of years ago, and it was, obviously he's been out of the game for a while. Like he hasn't been competitively.
He'll literally roll up 5 minutes before the game.
Oh man.
Put his shoes on, walk out there, no warm up, no nothing. Doesn't play much anymore, and he'll still get it.
Right. Yeah, and he's a lefty.
Yeah. And he's 6'3".
6'3".
Right?
Wow.
So,
6'3".
Yeah. No. Very, very, very. I was very fortunate to have coached him, and you talked about sort of Nash playing for D'Antonio, and that really, I think the system and the way we played the up tempo fast break, like that was perfect for his game too. And so I think he was really able to shine in that system.
Right. Yeah. I think you really like your point guards. That's a little trend I've noticed.
You're not as stupid as I thought. You're paying attention.
Well, I mean, from Brody to Ravi to Luka.
It's such an important position, right? And so I'd say it's something that I, personally, I think if you're a point guard and you get the opportunity to play for me, I think you have a chance to be pretty good. Because back in the day at Cap, I had a guy named Rob McClelland who was my assistant coach after for a long time. He led the league in assists. As a matter of fact, I think in 9 years at Langara, my point guard has led the league in assists 8 out of the 9 years.
Wow.
And at Cap, it was the same thing. And I had some really good point guards in high school too.
Mm.
When we won our high school championship, I had a kid named Billy Chang. And he ended up going up to UNBC, playing there, and he just finished his fifth year playing pro in Hong Kong. And he's only like 5'9". Right. But I think I've had lots of good point guards, and I think that's a position that I think that me and the coaches are with me developed that position quite well. Yeah.
What was the biggest difference between coaching in high school and then coaching in college, and being able to win in both?
Well, it's funny. So I first went to Cap in '99. So I've been coaching because I started coaching when I was like 16, right? When I was a student. And I've been coaching ever since, every year. Right. So I coached high school for a while, and I was at McGee while I was a university student. I started coaching senior when I was 21. It's so funny too, you look back and you go, oh man, when you're that age, you think you know everything. Like, oh, I'm so good. And then I look back now and I go, oh my God, I was terrible. Anyway. So, and then I coached at McNair for like another 10 years before I went to Cap. And it's funny, you make these assumptions. Well, I'm going to college now. This is going to be a big deal, right? Oh my God. No, it wasn't. It wasn't like, I'm having to sweep the floor and drive the bus. And it's like, what's going on here? But I loved it. It was really important development for me in my coaching career. And I think there's no question the biggest difference is you can be a really good coach in high school especially. And if you get your kids to buy in and you're enthusiastic and, you can, even if you don't have a huge amount of talent, you can still have a lot of success because you have a lot more influence in the game as a coach, I think, just in terms of stuff you run or sets you can call or scouting. But when you go to the college level, I learned very quickly that you can have guys that work hard and listen and are nice guys. But if you don't have the talent, that coaching factor is irrelevant. You're going to lose. Right. There's the old saying that says it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Bobbies and Joes. If you don't have the Bobbies and Joes at the college level, it's tough. Right. So you have to be a recruiter. So I had to learn how to be a good recruiter and how to get talent to come. And that was an adjustment for me because, you really need the horses. And then if you have the horses, then you can compete. So that was the biggest change for sure. Absolutely.
Right. I think one of the other biggest challenges a coach, especially in college, has to deal with is different personalities and like the different age ranges you got to deal with. Like this year we had a guy, Aaron Hare. He's 29?
29.
Right? And the youngest guy on the team is 17. Ronan Reed. Shout out Ronan. Yeah. So, and like even me, like I was like a 24-year-old.
Yeah, you're an older dude, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate to tell you that.
Yeah, I was older and I was, sometimes like just being in the locker room with the guys. I mean, everyone was cool. Everyone, we had a good team chemistry and everyone acted like more mature than
Right.
they were, and it was just different though. It was some people can't, understand the game as well when they're younger, and you need a little bit of age. And how do you like deal with that? Just like,
but
with the
it's
different,
like anything with coaching. It comes down to relationships, right? You have to try to get the relationship with the players, that personal connection with the players. And that's not always easy either, but that's what you need to do. You've got to be able to get on that level, and then you hope that then the players can do that as well as they learn to know each other, right? Like, the best teams I've had have been the teams that obviously had talent and skill, but they were tight. They really got along with each other, like off the court. That's just been my experience, that if you don't have that, it's really tough. Now, I've had some teams that didn't like each other and still had some success. But I think it's way more common that you have to develop those relationships. And that's really what it's about, is developing relationships. And sometimes that's easy. Sometimes it's not so easy. But that's what you have to try to do. And the age, the other thing I learned when I first started coaching at CAP, I was very, you know me, I'm a yeller, right? I'm pretty strict about things.
Right, yeah.
And when I first started coaching at CAP, that's the way I coached. I was a real hard ass, like I'd coached my high school team. And I did have a few older guys in that team. And they, after, a few weeks, one of them, a really good dude named Alex Nadrasky, took me aside and he said, Ebes, he said, this isn't going to work. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm a 23-year-old man. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so I learned that it is a bit different. As guys are more mature and get older, you kind of have to treat them a little bit differently. I learned that from Jay Triano too. When I was lucky enough to be in the national team coaching staff from 2000 to 2004, Jay is like, obviously probably the most successful Canadian basketball player, period, in terms of, he's the only Canadian ever to be a head coach in the NBA, right? And so he's a lot more mellow than I am. His coaching styles, he's an intense dude, don't get me wrong. But, I learned that from watching him and how he would treat his players. Like in high school, if a kid comes in late, you rip him and the whole team runs, and like you got to teach that lesson, right? Not so much, when you're coaching men. It's a little bit different, right? Like, so I learned a lot from him about how to coach young men and older people. I think that really helped me in my career.
Right. One incident I remember from this year is we were just having an awful practice. We had
a few of those.
Oh yeah, we had, but this one was bad. It was what was it when we would mess up when we get a notch on the scoreboard? Yeah, we had 10 or 15. It was bad, and you just had enough of it, and you just told us to fuck off. You literally started.
That doesn't sound like me.
You told us to get out of the gym.
Did I kick you all out?
Yeah, oh yeah. And then you punted the ball, and I remember in the locker room, the rookies were all shook. They were all like, "Oh my god!" And for the older guys, for us, we were just like.
But let me ask you this: did you guys deserve it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
we had no idea what we were doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a bad practice. It was just right off the bat. It was bad. But the good thing about your practice, what I loved about your practices, was that it was pretty much the same every single. Well, not the same, but it was just very up and down running, competition.
A lot of running, and I always at the end of the year, I always interview my players, and because I want feedback, right? Hey, what did you like? What didn't you like? What could I do better? And the consistent message I've always gotten from players is that they love the competition in practice. They like competing. So I try to always, that's why I use the scoreboard and have the score up, and losers have to run lines. And I think making it competitive like that is, it's important because you have to be competitive. If you're not competitive, you can't really play for me.
Right.
But also it's fun. It's fun to compete. That's why we all do it, right? So I found that to be a consistent message that players tell me they like. So I try to keep doing that.
Yeah. And going into it, I remember people were telling me just be ready for his training camp. Right.
How did you find training camp? It wasn't that hard.
It wasn't that bad, honestly. The way other players were talking about it was it's just, you won't be able to do anything after. And I was like, this is tough. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't
How'd you like climbing the trees? How was that?
Oh, right. I forgot about that. That was scary.
Yeah.
I was really
I know you're not a big fan of heights, so.
No, I can't. I almost didn't do it while I was climbing up the tree.
Yeah,
I was like,
see it.
I might come
But
down.
you were able to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
Just learning what your body's capable of, and it's capable of a lot more than you think.
Right.
And sort of overcoming some fears that you might have. So.
And that was a good team bonding experience.
Yeah,
we went to Earl's after whatever it was, had a couple of drinks, whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's that relationship bit, right? I think that's such an important part, right? I've learned over the years that if your players don't think that you care about them, they won't play for you. And if they're not having some fun along the way, they won't play for you. And if you're not genuine, I think that's the advice I'd give to any young coach is, sure, it's good to watch Mike Krzyzewski or, any other top level coach, right? And learn from them, but you can't be them. You have to find out who you are because, I find coaches sometimes they try to copy somebody and, and they're going to become this big yeller and get after guys, but it's not really their personality. And players will resent that. If they don't think you're being genuine, right? They'll resent it, right? Yeah. Or absolutely. Or if they think, like if you're on the floor and you mess up and I rip you for it or I get mad at you for it, if you think that I'm just doing that to, for my ego, then you're going to not like me. You're not going to want to play for me. But if you know that I'm doing that to try to help make you better and make the team better because I actually care, then it's much easier and you respect it. So I think that's the most important thing I would say to any coach is find out who you are, which is not easy, but be yourself. Because if you try to be something you're not, the players they'll eat you up. They'll eat you up.
And I think that's the biggest thing with you. Like I never really cared when you used to rip me apart or, yelled at the team because I knew it came from a genuine place and you really cared and you didn't mean it personally.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And I think a lot of people, not a lot, but like rookies or people that don't really know you might take that to offense.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
And you just have no time for that. Like even like if they don't respect that, if they react, if they can't handle it, it's work for you to do that. So you probably don't care. Not
really. I from my players' point of view, I want them to understand that, and I hope that they learn that. But it doesn't bother me. Like there's some guys who just probably can't play for me because of my style, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that I'm an asshole or that they're wrong. It's just they would prefer to play for somebody that was a different style. That's fine. Like that doesn't bother me at all. But I think most players want a coach who will try to make them better, will push them hard, and genuinely care about how they're doing. So how you do that, like if you look at successful coaches, you've got like guys at the far end of the scale, like a Bobby Knight, who's just like insane, right? Who's won all these championships. And you've got like a John Wooden who never said a word. And just did it through his deeds and his actions and his practice, the quiet. So there's no secret formula. Like you can be a yeller, you can be quiet, but it's all about how you build a relationship with your players.
Yeah, and that's the biggest part, I think, in coaching. It's like almost 90% just in the relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. You could take somebody who didn't know much about basketball and didn't, but if they were really good at relationships and figuring people out, and they'd be fine. Right? They'd be fine. As long as the players knew how to run the stuff on the floor, they'd be fine.
So for young hoopers coming out of high school and wanting to play college and maybe not getting, the looks they want, what do you...
The looks. Well, it's true. It's so ridiculous, though. Like, one of my pet peeves is you have... I don't blame necessarily the kids because they're young and stupid. They don't know much yet, right? But you have people in the community who hype, especially on social media, who hype these kids up. Like, oh my God, this guy's, he's got all these offers. He's going Division I. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, it drives me nuts. And they sell this fake dream. Like, I think kids should dream big. And if your dream is to play down south, absolutely. Do everything you can. But have a backup plan, man. Because do you know how many players come out of BC and play Division I? Like, we're lucky if there's one player or two good enough every year. To do, that's just a fact. The numbers don't lie. Right. And so many kids have this, they're obsessing about it, and then they don't realize the opportunities they have right in front of them. First of all, the Pac West is a great league. And most of those guys who come out from high school, the so-called top players, they won't be the best player in the Pac West. They might not even start. because it's a tough league, and you're playing against men, right? And very few players go to U Sport out of high school, like very few, and start and become key players as a freshman. It just doesn't happen. So I think we do a disservice to a lot of young kids when we hype them up, and we run these AAU club tournaments, and we're going to Vegas, and all these coaches are going to see you, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You're playing in the third gym at Rancho Cucamonga High School at 9 in the morning. Guess what? They're not going to be there to watch you play.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like this, and kids like, oh yeah, well, I'm still weighing my options. I'm going, weighing your options. It's like May. Right. It's June. What are you doing?
Yeah.
If you haven't heard from them yet, you're never going to hear from them.
Right.
So that's my little rant. Okay. But I think kids just need to be more realistic. And if you want to play, there's lots of opportunities where you can go play. But it doesn't, this dream of going down south is a bit of a bullshit dream. It's just not realistic for most kids. I mean, all you got to do, this is the thing when I used to do the provincial teams, and this was back sort of, we'd get all the best players, right? And we'd go down and play. And there wasn't as many tournaments back then, right? We'd go down and play, usually Vegas or Seattle. And one of the things why I like to do that is I wanted these kids to have their eyes opened up. Like, guys, you just lost to a team called the Northwest Panthers. Now, they're a good team. But do you understand that team is comprised of 2 high schools? It's 2 high schools. And they beat us, and we're all the best players in this whole province. Like, take a look around. That's what you have to compete against if you're going to come down here. And, for every star we have up here, California alone produces thousands of them. So, I would just tell kids to work hard, play, become as good as you can, but be realistic with your opportunities after high school.
Right.
I mean, some of the mixtapes that I get, they're hilarious. I got this one. I'm not going to name the player. That would be rude. But I got this one from a kid. And he literally, on the mixtape, showed the same step back 3 5 times. He just interspersed it throughout it, right? And then he did it in slow motion. And then oh my God. And the other thing, too, is kids, if you're going to do a mixtape and send it to a coach, you might not want to send it with a soundtrack in the back where fuck is every other word. It's just, a lot of coaches probably will look at that and not like that.
Right. Wow, that is funny. I mean, what is that though? Is it just because the mere fact of the states have more kids? Is just the numbers thing?
Well, look at us and look at Ontario, right? I mean, traditionally, Ontario and BC have been the top 2 basketball provinces. Sometimes Alberta, sometimes Manitoba, but it's generally us too. Well, look how many players they're producing. Well, why is that? Well, look at the population, man. The population is so much big. I mean, of course that's what it is. Of course that's what it is. I mean, we don't have the population here to match it. We just don't. And also, the culturally, the difference between Canada and the U.S. in sports is huge. Like, you can't even really compare it, right? It's a much more sports-obsessed country than we are. I mean, I've been down there so many times. I remember I took one of my high school teams down there to a tournament in Healdsburg, which is just by San Francisco. And after the first game, they had a big party for the coaches and everybody, and big social. And you're chatting away, and I happened to mention that. Oh well, yeah, I'm a teacher, and I'm a volunteer. They said, what? So yeah, I just volunteer, coach. I said, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? They said, well, we're all volunteers. They said, what? You don't get paid? No, they couldn't believe it. Right? They're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Right. Like, no, we don't get paid because it's just more valued down there, and just the position of coach is more valued. And it's funny, when you tell people up here, if you were to say to somebody, oh, what do you do for a living? You just say, oh, I coach. And they say, oh, okay, but yeah, that's in your spare time. But what's your job? You tell somebody you're a coach down there, really? Oh, that's awesome, man. What do you coach? And how do you? It's just so different.
They just value it way more.
They do. It's just culturally much more important down there than it is up here. I mean, I've been to high schools that have stadiums for their football team that are better than what UBC has. We went on this tour of Indian reservations in Arizona. It was one of the greatest trips we've ever done. And the first team we were playing, the Hopi Reserve, there's like maybe 10,000 people that live sort of on the reserve or in the area. And I'm meeting with the AD. He's giving me a tour of their campus. I'm like it was gorgeous, right? Full stadium track. And he goes, now, oh, coach, here's our field house. And he goes, and I'm looking, wow. I said, how many people is this holding? He says, oh, well, about 2,200, 2,000. He says, it'll be packed tonight. He says, it will be a turnaway crowd. He says, I apologize. He says, our regular stadium's being repaired right now. I said, what do you mean? He says, oh, let me show you. So he took me to another gym. And it was probably, I think it seated 7,500 people. It was like an arena. And he said, when they play, like their big rival games, he says they have to play there. And even though there's only 10,000 people that live there, they sell it out.
They sell it out, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little different from, when Hansworth plays Argyle, that's a big rivalry game, and there's, 300, there's 300 in the gym, and that's like, wow, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Well, just
well, when I was in high school, it was Hansworth and Carson.
Oh, was it?
Argyle was just like, they were like, like you just run over them. It was just like a throwaway game. Oh, let's get our stats up. Oh, yeah.
Okay, that used to be, see, again, I'm showing my age. It used to be a big rivalry.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. It was like the Kepke days, Saturday
those
days.
were some amazing games.
Yeah. There you go.
No, we don't talk about White Rock Christian. Is that where you're from?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
We won our fair share.
Oh, my God. Did you ever? And you beat my team every time. Oh, I have the worst record against White Rock Christian. When Scott first started. What's your name?
Daniel.
Oh, my God. When Scott first started, I used to play him a lot because he was just building his program, right? And they were single A. Yeah. And this is when I was in McNair. And so they'd come play us, and we just destroy them all the time. But, Scott built his program. And then when I was at Palmer, White Rock Christian was my, kryptonite. They're horrible. Oh, my God. First round, 2007 or 2008, we were like a top seed because we upset Vancouver College.
Right.
And Hansworth, who had Robert Sacra, choked and lost to West Van. Wow. And they were the number one seed. So we had a good chance to win it. White Rock Christian had screwed up in the Fraser Valley. They'd come like fifth. And so they had a bad seed, and we had to play them first round. Okay. And we missed a layup at the buzzer to beat them. It was just brutal. Next year, lost them in the semifinals in overtime. Two of my Aaron Hare.
Right.
Right? Aaron Hare and Matt Madawon, we have the ball, we're up one. Right. And there's like eight seconds to go. And so we're running an out of bounds play in the front court. And Matt Madawon and Aaron Hare ran into each other. And Matt's 6'4" and Aaron's like 6'6". So his head just hammered Aaron. And Aaron was just juiced, man. They had to stop the game. Blood everywhere. He couldn't, they had to take him off. And so we were shook. Anyway, my guy makes one free throw, and then they score at the buzzer. We lose in overtime. And then the next year we lost him in the quarterfinals. Oh, man, I don't like this dude anymore. We had very bad luck against them.
Why is it against them that you just couldn't get over? Is this something?
It was weird. It's just really weird. Yeah, we just couldn't. So frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. I remember, one thing I do remember from that provincial championship you guys won, Jamie Madawon, which is my age. Yeah. It was like a whole story where he just came off the bench and he just.
Well, we were playing Vancouver College, and we had beaten them in the Lower Mainland final in a really close game, and we were I think we were the one seed. Yeah, we were. Anyway, so we make the final, and it's against College. Now, there's a whole bunch of subplots to this game, right? First of all, I went to McGee growing up, right? And if you went to McGee, you hated Vancouver College, and Vancouver College hated you. That was just because we were right beside each other, right? So I've always had this history with Vancouver College. And there's all this stuff over the private schools that we don't need to go into. But anyway, so, and also Bill Disbrow, who had been my nemesis at Richmond High when I was at McNair, was now coaching him, right? And so there was all these subplots going on, right? So, I didn't want to lose to Disbrow, let's just put it that way. So we get down 19-2. We're down 19-2. We don't score our first basket till 5 minutes. We're down 19-2 with 2.5 minutes to go in the quarter. I'd called both my timeouts, and I had a TV timeout. They got a TV timeout too because it was being. So I used all 3 timeouts in the first quarter. The third timeout, I can honestly, I don't even know what I said. I just know that there probably wasn't a single non-expletive in the entire minute that I talked to my squad, right? Anyway. So Jamie Madawon comes off the bench to grade 10, and he hits a 3. I'm like, okay, well, there's a little bit of hope. And then he hit 3 in a row, and we scored another 2-pointer. So going into the second quarter, all of a sudden it was 19 to 16. So we were right back in the game in 2 minutes. And
Right.
a grade 10 did it.
A
And
grade
he hadn't
10.
hit a 3 the entire tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then we ended up, we pretty much even at halftime, and then we blew them out in the third quarter and then won the game.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And also, too, like I said, there was like these subplots, right? So my father went to McGee, and they won the BC championships in 1961. He was a very good player. They won in 1961. So his team, and his whole team was there, and their coach, because their coach was young when he'd started coaching them back in 61, they were there in a box to watch the tournament because it was the 50th anniversary of their win.
Wow.
So the fact that my team was able to win it 50 years after my dad's team was pretty special.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, speaking of Jamie, I remember because we were the same age, and he was just he was a well-known guy.
He was very good
class.
Yeah, he was a very, very good player. Yeah. He could just score it well.
Right.
And I mean, in his grade 12 year, we just saw so much box and one, and so much time all the time. So we, I think we came 5th that year. But he was a very talented player, and his older brother played for me too.
Right.
He was pretty good as well.
Yeah. What do you think where is basketball going in terms of young kids, and how has it changed? Like in terms of just toughness and skill set, and is it sort of do you see a change in the years you've coached?
I do. I mean, you have to be careful, right? Because sometimes we have a tendency to be more romantic about the past, to say, "Oh God, it was so much better back then," right? So and I'm a crabby old dude, so I gotta be careful with that. But I think the biggest change that I've seen, honestly, I think players now are quite skilled. I think a lot of their individual skill packages are probably stronger. I think players are fitter. They take that side of it. They're learning, back in the 80s or 90s or whatever. You didn't nutritional. You didn't think about things like that. You didn't think about really doing specific
strength
core
training.
workouts. You just didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
Go to McDonald's after the game and then you go play. So I think kids are probably better off in those two areas, but I think players are a lot worse, and I think this is a fault of us of how we're coaching. I don't think players understand how to play with other players better. They don't understand how to play without the ball. Most of the things that we're teaching, a lot of things that people are teaching, is you always have the ball in your hand, right? But you have to understand how to play when you don't have the ball. And that's things like how to properly cut and how to set a screen. These are really basic fundamentals. And I think that we're not teaching those as well as we used to. And I think players are not understanding those concepts. The biggest frustration for me when I get new players come in is they don't have the slightest clue how to play when they don't have the ball. And it's a team game. So you can have all the 6 dribble, crossover, step back, around the back, fadeaways that you want. But if you can't play with the 4 other guys, you'll never be successful as a team.
Right.
So I think there's been way too much emphasis on the individual play and not enough on the team play. And that's the biggest thing we're failing right now, for sure.
Right.
And I think, to say kids don't work as hard is probably not true, but there's different expectations now. For example, if I went home when I was playing and I went and complained to my dad that, coach isn't playing me enough, I don't get enough playing time. He would look at me and he'd go, well, then you need to work harder. You want to play, work harder, become better. You're not playing because those guys are better than you.
100%, yeah.
But now, more often than not, that parent is going to go complain to someone or go to the coach or move their kid to another team. And so I find, I just find that there's more, it seems to me to be sort of more entitlement. And it's harder to criticize players without there being some sort of objection or somebody coming in and saying, leave him alone. Well, I'm trying to help him become better. So that I think that's fair to say. At least I see that. I would say those are probably the biggest things that I see in just sort of, the attitude of how it works today. That it's harder to get people to be accountable because there's too many people that are not in their background of that kid's life that are like, oh, he didn't do anything wrong. Well, yeah, actually he did.
Yeah. And then you're just known to be an asshole. Oh, this guy's a dick, don't listen to this guy, Yeah. So you'll never win with that, I guess.
You could, but you can't. I certainly, as a coach in 40 plus years, I've changed and I've developed and I've seen things differently than I might have. And I mean, we all do. That's part of being a human being. But there are some things that I think you can't compromise. And I think one of the most important things basketball or any team sport can teach is how to be responsible and how to be accountable, right? And how to be loyal. And I think those are things that seem to be nowadays are tougher to teach. You know, the other thing that I'll say, I think kids were better off playing multiple sports than specifying on one sport, like, okay, I'm 8 years old, that's it, I'm doing basketball now. I do. I don't think the specialization that's happening is good for us at all. I don't think you become a better player because of it. What happens to a lot of those kids is they burn out and they get sick and tired of it. But like, I used to love it, again, when I was first coaching at McGee, I used to love it when my players played rugby in the fall. It was awesome. Or even played soccer. If they played rugby, they were generally came to me when basketball started in better shape. They were much more aggressive, right? If they played soccer, they understood spacing way better and how to move.
Exactly.
Like, and if you look at all that, like, you know, we talked about Steve Nash, clearly the greatest Canadian basketball player ever and one of the best players ever. Well, he played every sport in high school. He was actually the MVP of his soccer team. That won. He was the MVP of basketball, and he was like an all-star on his rugby team. And if you take a look, a lot of the best players, they do play more sports. So I think this need to specialize, you know, at such a young age, I think it's a mistake, and I don't think it's making players better.
Even when I was growing up, I was still playing different sports, but I remember people, you know, specifying one sport, that it was either hockey, soccer, or basketball. It was where I was from was mostly hockey. So I know, I just remember, like, from soccer and, like, you know, from soccer to, like, even just, like, swimming, you know, it was just like I got different things from that and, like, translated to basketball.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. I think that's an important thing that, and again, the amount of burnout I see in kids who start really early in one sport, and, you know, they go to prep school when they're like 15 or 16, and then by the time they're 17, they don't even play anymore. I don't think kids need to really start specializing, you know, probably till about grade 9 or 10, you know, when the sports start to overlap or clash. So.
A lot of people, like, that I know, like, that around my age, growing up playing basketball, it was their life. And them not playing anywhere after high school or not getting to where they want completely shattered them mentally, emotionally, and they were just left with nothing, because it's just that notion growing up with it. Oh, ball is life. There's even like a YouTube channel, and it's very, very popular, and it's just the farthest thing from the truth. Ball is life. But
it also comes back to what we talked about before. It's great to have that passion. I mean, I want players that have that passion, and it's great to like you ball all the time and you love it. That's awesome. But have realistic expectations, right? Like, I think anybody that plays in high school that starts for their team, right, as a starter or, you know, 6-man, who loves to play, they'll be able to find a place to play. It's hard, but they'll be able to find a place to continue to play after high school. But the problem is, so many of them have this huge unrealistic expectations, what we talked about before. And then when they don't get it, they just quit, right? Because I didn't make it. Well, look at the numbers, dude. Like, you're not playing, you know, for Duke. It's not going to happen for you. So I think if we as coaches and parents do a better job of helping to guide kids, like, okay, like, you want to play, great, let's look at some opportunities for you, then you probably can.
It's funny. I always remember this one story, and looking back on it, I don't know why I did get upset, but I remember it was in a 3D camp. I was around 10 or 11 years old, and I kept saying I was going to be the next Kobe Bryant. I'm going to be the next Kobe Bryant.
Well, of course, you're 11 years old.
Right, exactly. And the coach just straight up, he was just sick of it. He was just like, you're not going to be the next Kobe Bryant. It's like, please stop saying that. It's not going to happen. And I don't know, as a young kid, I was pretty like, you know, I went home like pretty upset. I was like,
but you're 11.
Right.
So there's a way to handle that with an 11-year-old. Probably not that would be the
right.
way.
Exactly.
It would be like, oh man, Kobe's pretty good. Like, he's great to aspire to. I mean, you know, maybe you'll get there one day. You know, and then as you get older, as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, and your brain is a little bit more advanced, then you start, you know, hey, you know what? You know, Kobe's one of the greatest players in the world. I don't know if you'll ever be that good, but strive to that. And hey, you know, like, don't you live in North Vancouver? You know, Cap College, go watch some of their games. Maybe that's where you could go. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a way to do it.
And that was the thing. Everyone, like, grade 11, grade 12, people were telling me, okay, well, you don't have any looks right now. What about Cap? And I was just Cap.
Right.
Langara, Douglas. Like, it was just sort of like
that was a mentality.
Exactly. It was sort of like a insult. Like, wow,
Yeah.
that. But, you know, playing in the league for 3 years, 2 years at Cap, 1 year at Langara, it's just like, it's a great league. It's a lot of talented players.
One of the biggest successes I have in recruiting, especially when I was at Cap, was I'd recruit kids who I knew wouldn't come play for me. And they would go play youth sport or maybe go play junior college down the States or Division III or something. But I'd stay in touch with them. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how'd you do? Hey, I'm following you. You know, you had 8 points today. Good job. And I just keep in touch with them. And after a year or 2 or 3, maybe they sit out redshirt, whatever. Then they're older and they realize, like, well, hey, like, I think I want to go play back in Langara now because I can't play at this level. And I got a lot of bounce back kids.
Right.
Just by staying in touch with them and you know, and everybody figures it out eventually. Well, not everybody. Some never do.
Yeah.
But they figure it out and they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'd love to go play there. Let my family and friends see me play and, you know, do really well and get to play in a good league as opposed to being the 15th man down here.
Right.
So, yeah, as they get older, people figure it out.
Right.
And you might get there one day, Mo. You might figure it out one day. Just keep striving.
I got 2 more years. I got 2 more years. Would you take me back if I want to come back?
I'd take you back. Wow, you're putting me on the spot. I'd take you back, yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Seriously?
Yeah, you can shoot the ball.
Right.
I think you grew up a little bit.
Yeah.
We had some interesting.
I didn't shoot.
We had some interesting conversations.
Oh yeah, we did.
But I think it's too bad the conversation we had right before playoffs.
Right.
I wish I'd had that conversation with you earlier because I think that helped a lot. I don't know. Tell me. But I think that helped you a lot.
I think
I should have had that conversation with you a bit sooner.
I'm going to be honest with you. Can I be completely honest with you?
Of course you can.
I knew I was done. I was expired. I was completely out of it in the bus ride to Camosun. Here's the thing. It wasn't anything to do with, you know, the team or playing time or, you know, just anything about it. Was just I just felt like being on that bus was completely draining me. It was just like, why am I on a bus going to a game in Kelowna?
Oh, you mean Okanagan?
Okanagan.
Yes.
Okanagan. Yeah. And right, Okanagan. Sorry. Yeah. And I was just sitting there like, man, this is just a drag. It's not even like.
Well, you weren't having any fun at that point.
Right.
Yeah. It
wasn't towards you or the team or just not even the game of basketball. I still love the game. It's just I don't want to like go through that. Oh, we got to get up at this time. We got to check in. We got to, you know, start warm up an hour before, you know. It was just like the little things. I was just like, I'm done with it. Like
it can be very mentally draining.
Yeah. Right.
And it didn't get any better when we got up there.
Oh God.
Because I remember that was the first game I didn't play.
Yeah. Yeah. The
first night. That was the first game. That was the first game you didn't get in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was just like, okay, well, I was already done on the bus. So like, you know, this was, and after that, it was sort of like, I honestly thought like every day we went to practice, I was like, I love my teammates. I love my coaches. I want to be there for them. But
you didn't really.
I didn't really
want it.
You know?
Yeah, I get it. And that was part of the, you know, that's all part of figuring shit out, right?
Right.
You know? Like I said, that's why I wish we'd had that talk a little bit earlier. Because I could see it. The assistants kept telling me, kick him out, he's not. I said, relax.
Timmy and Joey would say that?
Oh, yeah. Well, because because you weren't your normal self at that point.
Yeah,
you were kind of down.
Right.
And I figured, okay, there's something going on with him. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We'll sort it out.
Right, yeah. I just knew, like, this was it for me. Like, and I was totally content with it because every basketball player has to go through that where they know
and that's
they're
a
done.
Tough time.
Yeah.
That's a tough time for anybody. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you've been playing since you were a child and it's something you do every day, I've had lots of players like that. Like that group the group that won it, you know, Elliot and Jit, those guys, a lot of those guys were like lost. They're like, what am I going to do? I've been playing, you know, 24 now. I've been playing. So you'll figure it out. You'll find something, and you'll keep playing if you want men's league. But you'll figure it out. Everyone figures it out. But that's not an easy time, right? That's not an easy time at all. You recognize that.
It was just sort of like, I tell people now, like if Eves was to hit me up and say, you're going to play every minute of every game, you're going to shoot every single shot, I still would be like, I can't.
Wait a minute. You're going to play every minute of every single game?
Every
And
minute
you're
of
going
every
to shoot every shot?
every shot.
Oh, we'd be a bad team if that happened. Oh, my God.
Hey, that's all I'm saying. Just coaches out there, if you're willing to give me a chance, why not? You know. But honestly, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. I would never. It would just be a burden for me.
Yeah.
It's like
So
something.
you recognize at that point that because you wanted to come back and you really wanted to come back. That's why I took you. Because I could tell it was really important to you. And you worked really hard to do it and play again. But you came to a point in your life where you realized it's over for me and I got to move on.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a tough place for anybody who loves to play.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, I get it.
I hope people get to that though, because some people don't. It just sort of like
they don't
transitions into like them not playing, and it's sort of like, oh, wow, this is kind of weird. It's almost like a gray area to where they are. They don't.
See, that's why I think as a coach I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky because I feel like a kid all the time because I've been doing this since I was a kid. I get a new team every season. I get to, get my competitive juices going. Like I feel I'm quite. And the other thing too, as a coach, is you get another chance. If you're playing on a team and you lose in a playoff game or a championship game, or we lost to Camosun, our season was over, and that's kind of depressing. But as a coach, you're lucky because I get another crack at it. As a player, you don't. So that's a big difference too.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it was a time for me to just like let it go, and I remember weight was a big thing for me. Like losing some weight, and I remember before the Capilano game, you were like, you need to be under 200 or you're not playing.
Yeah, we made a deal. I said you're on the team, but you got to be under this weight.
Yeah.
Right? And, you worked pretty hard to get there, but you were pretty shocked that one practice when I brought the scale in.
Oh, yeah. It was a day before. It was a game on Friday, and, I guess Thursday night was the last chance I had to weigh myself because the next day we didn't have practice and it was the game.
Thursday was the last chance.
And I remember the whole day I was fasting. I drank like...
Yeah, because I think you were like 3 pounds over. When we weighed you on the Monday or Tuesday?
It was around 3 pounds.
At 202 or something?
Yeah. So it was literally like a UFC weigh-in.
He's taking all his clothes off. He's like, please.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Because you knew I was serious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You weren't joking about that.
No, you wouldn't play.
If I was not under 200, you would have not played me.
No, I keep my word. Yeah. If I didn't keep my word, I'd have to.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have.
Right.
But I would have given you another chance before the game.
Okay.
I would have said, okay, one more chance.
Oh, there's no chance.
Get in the sauna for the next 2 hours.
Well, I went in the sauna in the YMCA right beside Lang for like an hour.
Well, you made it.
Yeah.
You got it.
That was a bad practice, though. That was rough. I had to tell Timmy I need to sit off. I can't do this.
You're too busy doing everything you could to like be drained and have no water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And then you start running again, and Timmy was just like, yeah, take a break. You need because you're about to faint or something.
That's funny.
Yeah, I actually ended up being 197. I went from 203 to 197 in about 24 hours. 24 hours, yeah, I would say 20 to 24 hours. I'm pretty happy about that. I was pretty happy.
Yeah. No, you were celebrating.
Yeah, I was pretty.
You ran out into the gym in your underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, I made it.
I did do that. Yeah. So you're coming back next year for Lang?
Yeah, but who knows what's going to happen to our season?
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
Hang on, can we take a break for a sec?
Okay, we're back from our intermission.
I'm taller now too. You notice that? I'm taller now.
Yeah, you are.
It's much better chance.
Looking
down at you.
Yeah. So, if anyone knows about the status of next year, it's probably you.
It's weird, eh? So right now, there's no games until January. So we're hoping that come January we're allowed to play. And we play our Pac-West schedule in January, try to fit all the games in, which I think we can, and have a Pac-West championship. The CCAA has not decided yet whether there'll be a national championship. I know for U Sport, October 8th is kind of the date where they're deciding. CCAA hasn't put out a date, so we're hoping that there's a national championship too. But I think I don't know, man, but I think by January we're going to be able to play. I think. So we'll get at least a Pac-West championship done.
Right.
Will we be able to go to nationals? only if CCA decides to run it, and I don't know if they will. I mean, who knows? We might not get anything in. This whole thing is so fluid, right? It changes like that.
Right.
You know, even in high school, I don't think we're going to get a high school season because right now they've already said there's no tournaments or anything that are going to be allowed. So the best we can probably hope for in high school is to just play games locally, like in the North Shore League against each other.
Right.
But yeah, it's very, very difficult and it's hard to predict. Now, it's really hard for me this year, too, because talk about new players. I've only got 3 returners, right? And this year, for the first time ever, I was allowed to recruit Americans. Because
you weren't before?
Well, Americans have to pay international fees, and I don't have the scholarship money to cover that. Some of the schools, like VIU, they always have Americans, right? Well, their school waives the international fee. Douglas got some money for internationals. That's why they had Courtney in them, right?
Right.
So really to compete at that level, you know, the AD at Langara has been working hard to try to get the waiver. So we got it finally. So now I can recruit an American kid and the international fee is waived because international fees are like 4 to 5 times.
Right.
So it's pretty expensive. So Joey's just done an amazing job, my assistant, Joey Dillon, finding just these random Americans.
Okay.
So we got a kid coming from California, big guy, Salim. We got a kid from Texas who's already here. He's a point guard. And then there's a kid coming from Florida, we think, but he hasn't got his visa done yet. So, you know, we're going to have some international kids, got a few older kids, a few young kids, local kids. I think we're going to have a pretty good team. I really do. I think we're going to be very good. But, you know, whether it all works out and these guys are allowed in the country or not, and, you know, that's all up in the air right now. And I don't even know, like, we can't get in the gym right now.
Right.
Even just to do individual training, we can't get in the gym. So I guess what I'm hoping for is we get in the gym in October, train, play exhibition games, because the CIS schools are all allowed to play exhibition games. So we could scrimmage with UBC and Trinity and Fraser Valley, and then hopefully get the season in January. That's the best we can hope for.
Right. I'm assuming you probably won't lose a year if you...
No. So what they're saying right now is you won't lose a year of eligibility unless there's a national championship.
Okay.
Right. So we could scrimmage and train before Christmas. We could have a Pac West championship after, and if there's nothing after that, then the guys wouldn't lose a year. Right. So that's good. And they're even talking about even if there is a national championship, it might not count as a year. Yeah, just because I mean it's so crazy, right?
Right. Yeah. That would make sense. I mean,
I think that's fair. I think that's fair to the players.
Right.
If they don't know, you know, how many games they're going to get, and you know, and they're not even, you know, really they're at school, but they're not because it's all online right now, right?
Right.
You know, I got a kid up in Kelowna. I told him just don't come down until October.
Right.
Save some money in September. Stay up there. You can do all your classes online.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if, for example, if the kid from California can't get in yet, then he's already registered. He can do his Langara classes down in
exactly.
California.
You can do it wherever you want. Right. So I'm curious. I don't know if you're allowed to tell me, but who's going back?
Oh, coming back?
Yeah.
Oh, well, AJ.
AJ.
He's eligible now, finally.
There you go.
Right? And Jazz. Jazz Dudwell, who was a rookie of the year in the league. And Moise.
Okay.
The league's leading scorer.
Wow, okay. Yeah. I had a feeling Jazz was coming back. I did not know AJ was going back.
Yeah, no, he just wants to play because he hasn't really played anywhere in like 2-3 years.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, so I think he'll, you know, he can score like crazy.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So I feel like it's going to be like another whole new team basically next year. Yeah.
And like I said, I've never had this many international players before ever.
Exactly.
So, you know, we'll see what that brings.
Right.
Right. I'm excited about it, but I just wish it could be more normal.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing's normal, right?
Exactly. Now. Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, I'm going to be there to support because I love Langara. I love you, man.
And if we're playing Cap, you're cheering for us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Just making sure.
I'm still going to go. I'm for sure going to go to a Cap Langara game.
There's probably some guys still playing at Cap that you played with.
Yeah. Grady Huskisson.
I heard that Brendan might go back. I don't know.
Brendan Bailey. Oh wow. Okay.
You played with him, right?
I did play with him for 1 year. Yeah. And then my other good buddy Martin Bogayev. He's going to go into his 5th year.
Well, he played for me for a year too.
Right. Yeah. He's He's told me some stories, some funny stories. One thing I did notice during the year, I don't know if this is a real thing, but before the game and during halftime, you usually just sit on the bench and like I see you like whispering like numbers and like just like percentages. Is that what it is? Is it like are you like
I actually do a lot of visualization before the game.
okay?
So I'm actually visualizing. Okay, we're playing Cat. Okay,
Right.
what are they going to run here? What will I do to counter? I visualize a lot about what I think is going to happen in the game, just so it's weird because sometimes you're bang on, and so then it's like, oh, I've already seen that. So yeah, I do a lot of visualization. I'm a bit superstitious too, so there's a few certain things that I mumble to myself before every game.
Right.
And then at halftime, I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, let's take a look at stats and what adjustments should I make or not make. Yeah. So I always try to think ahead. I learned visualization very early on, and the importance of it. And I think I've always done that. Not just I do that with like everything in my life, right? I'll tell you a quick story. There was a basketball BC clinic, super clinic, and there's 300 people going to be there. And my cap guys were going to be the players demonstrating. And Steve Fisher, who coached the Fab Five, right? So this was shortly after they had won it, so he was a big name. He was the big name we were bringing up, basketball BC was bringing up to speak. So as I'm driving up the clinic, for whatever reason, I just said, I wonder what I'd do if they ever asked me to do a clinic. And I started going through my mind, this is what I do, and I do that, and I could teach this, and I tell that story. And I sort of just did all this in my mind, right? Because, my players were there. And I thought, yeah. So I get there, and I'm sitting in the stands, and we're waiting. And Mike Hine for Basketball BC comes with Eves, and he talked to me. What? He goes, Steve Fisher can't get here. He's fogged in Seattle.
Wow.
I'm like, well, what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
Would you help me out? Do you think it's your guys? You think you could do something? And I was like, yeah, I could do something because I already did it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I just went out and all the stuff that I had visualized
manifested.
and thought about doing, I just did, and it actually went quite well.
Wow. So
right?
you're already prepared, like,
yeah. So I just think doing that type of thing, I think is really important in anything that you do because you're more prepared and you'll be more successful when you do stuff. So.
Wow, that's a pretty cool story.
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. When I'm sitting there mumbling, no one's ever asked me that.
Because I've seen, because it's very obvious. You're just sitting there, you're looking at the score, because I know you're calculating numbers, and I asked Martin, because he played for you, and I was like, yo, Marty, is that, like, have you noticed Eves when he does that? He's like, oh yeah, he's just going through, like, the scenarios, the numbers.
That's interesting.
So he's noticed it, and one thing I will say, oh God, just like, being on the bench sometimes, and when you call timeouts and you have to go around behind the bench, what's that about? Like, what is?
Because, a couple of reasons. Okay, first of all, I want all of the team to be engaged in the timeout. And if you're not in the game, and whatever, and if you're standing behind me, looking over my shoulder, I don't know what you're doing. If you're standing behind the bench, I can make eye contact. I'm a big eye contact guy.
Oh yeah.
So I can look at everybody, and and honestly, like, I'll take a quick look up, and if I see somebody like picking his nose or looking up or talking to his girlfriend in the stands, I'll make a note of that. And guess what? That guy's not going to play.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But the most important reason is at Langara, where are the stands?
Right behind us.
They're right behind us.
Yeah.
So I need a shield, man.
Yeah. That was the other conspiracy.
I can't sit there in the timeout and fuck.
Yeah.
And hello, little 5-year-old sitting in the stand with your mother. Like, no, I need a shield behind me. So it's not, and they got to turn the music on too. I said, tell David that all the time. Get that music on right as the timeout starts.
I've been in the stands on the other side, and it does not help. I hear everything you say, and I get a kick out of it. It's so funny. It's great. It's one of the best things. So. Honestly, this has been great, man. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in. Like,
well, thanks for asking me.
Yeah,
I'm not doing a hell of a lot else right now.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, this has been fun.
Okay.
As the young people say, I love chopping it up with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I learned that phrase.
Did you?
We're chopping it up.
Yeah,
you didn't know that?
Yeah.
You gotta know that.
Another story.
Very hip if you don't know that.
Another story. Martin told me a lot of stories, but me and him are really close.
He's a good character.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Love
and he told me he complimented your ties one time, and you were just like, my tie game is lit. My tie game is lit. And, and I was like, wow.
You gotta be hip with the kids. You gotta know your vocab. And my tie game is lit, you know that.
Oh, that's great.
I mean,
Future players of Ebes, his tie game is absolutely incredible.
nobody even comes close.
No.
Yeah.
Man, just a guy
I got
full of
100
stories.
ties.
Huh?
I got almost 100 ties.
100.
Well, no, 80. I got about 80 ties. Yeah.
Wow.
Including 8 different Elvis ties. You've probably seen those. My favorite.
I've seen a couple.
My favorite is the fat Elvis. The Vegas years. The
Okay.
popping Elvis. That's
right. Yeah. Pretty sure you wore that one this year.
Yeah,
for sure.
that one had a bad record though.
Yeah.
And I remember the records of my ties.
Oh, do you?
I do. Yeah. Like if a tie loses a few in a row, I just put it in the back and I don't wear it for a while.
Jeez.
My Michael Jordan tie has the best record. Big surprise.
Oh,
it has that was the national championship tie. So
okay.
It has the best record.
You didn't wear that tie this year?
I did.
Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah. I wore it twice. We won one.
Yeah.
And then we lost one. So I didn't bring it back.
50%.
Yeah. But if I wore that tie, we would have got a lot of losses this year.
I mean, I had a great time.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Today we had Ebes on the show, and this is Enjoy Your 24. Peace. All right. Thank you.
That's good stuff, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, we'll see how that was.
That was a long one.
Was that good?
I had fun. Yeah.